She always believed her mother's cooking was pure magic, something beyond the ordinary. But what she uncovered will leave you breathless. Watch as long-buried secrets come to light, and a daughter is forced to confront a truth so shocking it could change everything forever. The village of Ijebu was always peaceful, and Amara loved the smell of home. Every time she walked into her house, the delicious smell of food filled the air. It made her feel safe and happy. Her mother, Mama Ngozi, was known for cooking the best meals in the village. Amara could always tell when her mother was cooking because the smell was so amazing. Whether it was rice, beans, or stew, every dish smelled so good that Amara's stomach would rumble. She couldn't wait to sit down and enjoy a meal made with love. Home always smelled like happiness. Mama Ngozi was the best cook in the village. Everyone knew it. Whenever there was a big celebration, people would ask her to cook the food because they knew it would be delicious. Her meals were always perfect, hot, fresh, and full of flavor. Amara loved watching her mother cook. She had a special way of mixing spices and ingredients that made the food taste amazing. People would come from far and wide just to taste her cooking. Amara felt proud to have such a talented mother. She couldn't wait to share the meals with her friends and family. Amara always noticed that Mama Ngozi used strange ingredients when cooking. There were jars filled with herbs, powders, and liquids that Amara had never seen before. Some bottles looked old and dusty, while others had glowing colors inside. Mama Ngozi would carefully measure and add these ingredients to the food, making everything taste better than anything Amara had ever eaten. Amara was curious, but her mother never explained where the ingredients came from. She would just smile and say, "A cook never reveals her secrets." But Amara couldn't help wondering where these mysterious ingredients really came from. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, Amara was thirsty. She quietly went to the kitchen for a glass of water. As she passed the window, she saw Mama Ngozi sneaking out of the house. Amara's heart raced with curiosity. Why was Mama leaving at this hour? Amara decided to follow her. She tiptoed behind, making sure Mama didn't see her. They walked through the dark forest behind their house. Amara stayed hidden behind trees, watching as her mother moved deeper into the forest. Something mysterious was happening, and Amara was about to find out what. The forest was dark and quiet, with only the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Amara felt a little scared, but she stayed close behind her mother. The trees were tall and thick, blocking out most of the moonlight. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, like whispers, but Amara couldn't see where they were coming from. The path was narrow and twisted, leading deeper into the forest. It felt like a different world, far away from the warm house. Amara's heart beat faster, and she wondered where Mama Ngozi was taking her and what secrets she was hiding. Deep in the forest, Mama Ngozi stopped in front of a strange stone altar. Amara watched from behind a tree, her eyes wide with curiosity. Mama opened a big old chest and pulled out a large, shiny black pot. The pot looked ancient, with strange markings on the sides. Mama carefully set it on the ground and started pouring a dark liquid from one of the bottles she had been carrying. The liquid was thick and smelled strange, like something old and forgotten. Amara could hardly believe what she was seeing. What was Mama doing with the mysterious pot? As Amara watched her mother, she suddenly heard soft voices in the wind. At first, they were very quiet, like whispers. She looked around, but there was no one else in sight. The voices seemed to be calling her name. "Amara, Amara," they whispered over and over. The hair on the back of her neck stood up. Who was calling her? Why were they calling her name? The whispers grew louder, almost as if they wanted her to come closer. Amara's heart pounded. She felt something strange and magical in the air. The voices seemed to be guiding her towards something important. From the shadows of the trees, an old woman appeared. She had long, white hair that shimmered in the moonlight and glowing eyes that seemed to see right through Amara. The old woman smiled kindly at her and said, "You've seen too much, child." Amara was scared but couldn't move. The old woman's voice was soft, but there was something magical about it. She stepped closer to Amara and gently placed her hand on her shoulder. "Your mother's secret is not just about cooking," the old woman whispered. "It is much more than that. Sin, and you are part of it now." The old woman told Amara a shocking secret. "Your mother's cooking is magical, but not in the way you think," she explained. "She uses water from the bodies of the dead to cook her meals." Amara's eyes widened. "What? Why?" she asked. The old woman nodded. "Long ago, your mother made a pact with the spirits. In exchange for the magic, her food would taste better than anyone else's. But magic always comes with a price." Amara couldn't believe it. Her mother had been using water from the dead. It was a secret too strange and terrible to understand. The old woman looked at Amara with serious eyes. "To save your mother, you must break the pact," she said. "But to do that, you must go on a dangerous journey." Amara nodded, feeling brave. "Where do I go?" she asked. "Follow the whispers," the old woman told her. "They will guide you to the sacred well, where the spirits live." Amara took a deep breath, ready for the challenge. The journey would be long and full of dangers, but she loved her mother, and knew she had to do whatever it took to save her. With courage, Amara began her adventure. Amara followed the whispers through the forest, her heart racing with excitement and fear. The path was narrow and twisted, with trees so tall they seemed to touch the sky. Every step she took, the whispers grew louder, guiding her forward. She didn't know how long she had been walking, but it felt like hours. The air was thick with magic, and Amara could feel it all around her. Strange animals watched her as she passed, deer, birds, and even a snake. They didn't scare her. Instead, she felt like they were protecting her, helping her find the sacred well. As Amara walked deeper into the forest, she saw wild animals watching her from the trees and bushes. First, a large lion stepped out, its golden eyes fixed on her. Amara froze, but felt no fear. The lion simply looked at her for a moment before walking away. Then, a group of monkeys swung from the branches above, chattering loudly. Amara smiled as they followed her for a short distance, as if they were curious about her. Even a colorful bird flew beside her for a while, making her feel safe. These wild animals seemed to be guiding her along the path. Amara reached a wide river with clear, flowing water. As she stood by the riverbank, she heard something strange. The river seemed to be talking to her. "Do not cross unless you know the truth," the river whispered in a soft voice. Amara was surprised. "What truth?" she asked, feeling confused. The river rippled and answered, "The truth about the magic that controls your mother." Amara stared at the water, thinking about the secret her mother had kept. The river's voice seemed to know everything, and Amara knew she had to listen carefully if she wanted to continue her journey. Amara stood still, staring at the river. Suddenly, the water began to swirl, and a bright light appeared. From the river, a large spirit rose up. It had a glowing face shining like the moon, and its body seemed to be made of water. The spirit's eyes were kind but serious. "I am the guardian of the sacred well," the spirit said in a deep voice. "You have come to break the pact your mother made, but first, you must prove you are worthy." Amara felt both nervous and brave. "How can I prove I am worthy?" she asked. The spirit smiled gently. "You will face 3 tests: courage, forgiveness, and love. Only then will you be ready to face the magic that holds your mother." Amara took a deep breath. She was ready. She would do whatever it took to save her mother and break the pact. The first test was the test of courage. The spirit's voice echoed, "Face your greatest fear." Amara closed her eyes, and suddenly she felt a cold wind. When she opened them, she saw her mother standing before her, but she wasn't the same. Mama Ngozi's face was twisted, her eyes glowing with dark magic. "You cannot stop me," the vision of her mother said in a scary voice. Amara's heart raced, but she didn't back away. She remembered how much she loved her mother. and how she had to save her. "I will stop this," she said, feeling her courage grow. Amara's heart beat fast as the vision of her mother grew more frightening. "You will lose me forever," the dark version of Mama Ngozi said. "I am already gone. You cannot save me." Amara felt a wave of fear and sadness. Losing her mother seemed too horrible to imagine. Tears filled her eyes, but she wiped them away. "No, I won't lose you," she whispered. "I will save you no matter what." The vision laughed, but Amara stood tall. She couldn't let fear stop her. She loved her mother too much. With a deep breath, she faced the fear and moved forward. The second test was about forgiveness. The spirit's voice echoed, "You must forgive your mother for the pact she made." Amara felt a wave of anger rise inside her. She couldn't believe her mother had made such a deal with the spirits. Why did she do this? Amara asked herself. But as she thought more, she remembered all the good things Mama Ngozi had done for her. She loved her mother, even though she had made a mistake. With a deep breath, Amara said, "I forgive you, Mama." As she said those words, she felt lighter, like a heavy weight had been lifted off her chest. The third test was the hardest of all. The spirit spoke softly, "You must prove that your love for your mother is stronger than any magic." Amara closed her eyes and thought about all the times her mother had cared for her, how Mama Ngozi would make her favorite meals when she was sad, how she would sing her to sleep when she had bad dreams, and how much her mother had always protected her. Amara felt her heart fill with love. "I love you, Mama, more than anything," she whispered. In that moment, she knew that love was the strongest magic of all. The spirit smiled at Amara, its glowing eyes softening. "You have passed the tests," it said. "You have shown courage, forgiveness, and love. Now, you are ready to break the pact." The air around them shimmered with magic. "But remember, breaking the pact will change everything," the spirit warned. "Your mother's cooking will no longer have magic, and the spirits will be free." Amara nodded, knowing it was the right thing to do. She stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. The spirit raised its hand, and the forest seemed to hold its breath as Amara prepared for the final step. Amara stood before the glowing spirit, her heart filled with determination. She had learned the truth about her mother's secret magic, and now she had to make a choice. The pact Mama Ngozi had made with the spirits had given her great cooking skills, but it came at a terrible price. Amara felt torn, knowing that breaking the pact would change everything. She thought about her mother, who had always cooked with love, and the village that admired her. But deep down, Amara knew what she had to do. With a deep breath, she whispered, "I'm ready to break the pact." Amara took a deep breath and stepped onto the path leading to the sacred well. The forest around her was thick with trees, and the air felt heavy with magic. The whispers from the wind seemed to guide her, leading her deeper into the unknown. Every step felt like a challenge, but Amara's determination pushed her forward. She could hear the sound of distant birds and rustling leaves, but it felt strangely quiet. The journey was long, and her legs grew tired, but she knew that the sacred well held the key to breaking the pact. She couldn't turn back now. Amara finally reached the sacred well, hidden deep in the forest. The well was ancient, its stone edges covered in moss. The water inside was dark, almost black, and seemed to shimmer with an eerie glow. It felt like the water was alive, swirling slowly, as if holding secrets from the past. Amara hesitated, feeling the power of the pact still lingering in the air. She knew that breaking the magic meant confronting this dark water, but she couldn't turn back. With a steady breath, she stepped forward, ready to do what she had to, no matter the cost. The ancient words the spirit had told her echoed in Amara's mind as she stared at the dark water. "Speak the words with your heart," the spirit had said. Amara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. She knew that once she spoke, everything would change. With trembling lips, she began to chant the words, her voice growing stronger with each syllable. The air around her seemed to grow colder, and the water in the well started to swirl faster. It was as if the well itself was resisting. But Amara continued, determined to break the pact once and for all. As soon as Amara finished speaking the ancient words, the ground beneath her feet trembled. The air grew thick, and the sky above turned dark. A deep rumbling sound filled the forest, and Amara could feel the power of the pact fighting back. The well's dark waters began to bubble violently, sending splashes of black liquid into the air. The magic was awakening, and the force trying to protect the pact was stronger than she imagined. Amara's heart raced as the world around her shook. She knew she had to stay strong, no matter how terrifying the consequences might be. From the depths of his well, a dark shadow began to rise. It swirled and twisted in the air, taking the shape of a giant figure. Its glowing eyes stared at Amara, and its voice echoed in her mind. "You dare break my bond?" it hissed, its voice cold and threatening. The shadow stretched out its long, twisting arms, reaching toward her. Amara felt a chill run down her spine, but she didn't step back. She had made her decision, and there was no turning back now. "I must," Amara said softly, her voice steady. "I must break the pact." The shadow's dark form loomed over Amara, its voice booming with anger. "If you break the pact, your mother will lose her power," it warned. "The food she cooks will no longer be magical. She will be nothing." Amara's heart sank as she heard these words. She couldn't imagine her mother without the magic, without the special meals that everyone loved. But deep inside, she knew what she had to do. "I don't care about the magic," Amara whispered. "I care about my mother's happiness. I won't let this darkness control us anymore." The shadow's eyes glowed brighter, angry at her defiance. The shadow's form began to tremble, its anger growing stronger. "You think you can break this bond so easily?" it hissed. "You will pay a price." Amara stood her ground, feeling both fear and determination. She had no choice but to continue. Just as the shadow began to reach for her, the guardian spirit appeared, glowing brighter than ever. "You cannot defeat the light of truth," the spirit said, raising its hand to shield Amara. The shadow howled in frustration, but the spirit's power held it back. "You've already chosen," the spirit whispered. "The pact is broken. Now, face the consequences." As the shadow struggled against the spirit's light, Amara felt the ground beneath her feet begin to settle. The dark force slowly began to shrink, its power weakening. The air felt lighter, and the oppressive heaviness that had filled the forest started to fade. The shadow let out one final angry screech before it vanished completely, leaving only silence behind. The spirit turned to Amara, its glowing face softening. "You have done it, child," the spirit said. "The pact is broken, but remember, magic always has a price. Be ready for what comes next." Amara nodded, knowing that her journey was far from over. Amara stood in the now quiet forest, her heart pounding. The once dark waters of the well had returned to their peaceful state, but a strange stillness filled the air. As she turned to leave, she noticed that the world around her seemed changed. The trees were less vibrant, the animals quiet. It was as if the magic that had once surrounded the well had seeped into everything. She felt a wave of sadness wash over her. What had she done? The magic was gone, but at what cost? With a heavy heart, Amara began her journey home, wondering what awaited her next. Amara's journey home felt longer than ever. As she walked through the forest, the once familiar path now seemed unfamiliar and cold. The trees, which used to sing with the wind, now stood still, as if mourning the magic that had been broken. When she finally reached her village, she was met with a strange silence. The usual sounds of laughter and chatter were gone. She entered her home and found Mama Ngozi standing by the fire, stirring a pot. The warmth of the kitchen felt different, and Amara's heart sank. Her mother's cooking no longer had its magical scent. Mama Ngozi turned to Amara, her eyes filled with sadness. She sniffed the air and let out a long sigh. "The magic is gone, isn't it?" she whispered. Amara nodded, her throat tight. She expected her mother to be angry, but instead, Mama Ngozi simply stared into the pot. "I always knew this day would come," she said softly. She lifted a spoon to taste the food, but as she swallowed, tears welled in her eyes. "It's just ordinary now." Amara stepped closer, placing a hand on her mother's. "We don't need magic, Mama," she said. "We still have each other." Mama Ngozi looked at Amara, her eyes filled with both sadness and understanding. She smiled faintly and whispered, "I wanted to be the best, but I see now that I lost something more important." Amara squeezed her hand, feeling the weight of her mother's words. Together they had faced the consequences, but now they had a chance to rebuild. "We still have love, Mama," Amara said, her voice steady. Mama Ngozi nodded, wiping away a tear. "Yes, we do." They stood together in the kitchen, knowing that no magic could ever replace the bond they shared. A new beginning had begun. The next morning, Amara and Mama Ngozi decided to cook together, just like they used to, before the magic. They gathered simple ingredients, rice, vegetables, and some fish, and started preparing the meal. It wasn't as special as the magical dishes Mama had once cooked, but it was made with care and love. As they worked side by side, Amara realized that this was more than enough. The laughter and warmth in the kitchen filled her heart. When they sat down to eat, the food may not have been magical, but it tasted like home. And that was all that mattered. As the days passed, life in the village slowly returned to normal. People still came to Mama Ngozi's home, but now they came for the warmth and kindness she gave, not for her magical cooking. At first, some villagers whispered about the change, but over time, they came to appreciate the simple, hearty meals that Mama prepared with love. Amara noticed that her mother seemed lighter, happier, as she embraced her new life. They worked together in the garden, shared stories, and enjoyed each other's company. Amara realized that true magic wasn't in the food, it was in the love they shared. One evening, as Amara and Mama Ngozi sat by the fire, Amara thought about how much had changed. The magic was gone, but their bond had only grown stronger. "You know, Mama," Amara said, looking at the flames, "I never really understood before how much love goes into cooking." Mama Ngozi smiled and nodded. "Love makes all things special, even the simplest meals," she replied. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire crackle. Amara realized that they didn't need magic or special powers to feel fulfilled. Their love, their time together, that was the true recipe for happiness. As the weeks passed, Amara began to see the change in her mother. Mama Ngozi no longer seemed sad or lost. She was at peace with herself and her choices. One afternoon, a neighbor came by and asked if Mama could cook for an upcoming village feast. Amara's heart fluttered with worry, but Mama Ngozi simply smiled and agreed. The feast came, and though her food was not magical, it was the most delicious meal anyone had ever tasted. The villagers praised her, not for the magic, but for the love that filled every bite. Amara realized this was enough. The feast was a success, and as the villagers gathered around, Amara couldn't help but feel proud of her mother. It wasn't the magical dishes that impressed everyone. It was the warmth and care in every meal. That night, Mama Ngozi sat beside Amara, content and peaceful. "I used to think I needed magic to be special," she said softly, "but now I know it's the love we share that makes everything special." Amara smiled and nodded, her heart full. She had learned that true magic wasn't found in dark waters or packs, but in the simple, everyday moments spent together. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Amara and Mama Ngozi sat outside, enjoying the cool breeze. "You've taught me so much, Mama," Amara said, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. Mama Ngozi smiled, her heart full of pride. "You've always been my strength, my dear," she replied. "Now, we live without magic, but we have something far more powerful. Amara looked up at the stars, feeling a deep sense of peace. We have love, she whispered. Mama Ngozi kissed her forehead, and that's all we'll ever need. Together they sat, knowing they were ready for whatever came next. As the seasons changed, Amara and Mama Ngozi grew closer than ever. The village flourished with their presence, and more people came by to help with the garden, sharing stories and laughter. Life was simple, but it was filled with warmth and connection. One afternoon, as Amara walked through the village, she overheard a conversation. The villagers were speaking about how Mama Ngozi's food had become even better, rich with flavor, not from magic, but from her heart. Amara smiled, realizing that the true magic had always been in the love and effort Mama put into everything she did. It was enough. Amara and Mama Ngozi started their new life without magic. The days were calm and peaceful. They cooked meals together, but the food didn't taste as magical as before. The village noticed too. People still came to eat, but the special glow in Mama's cooking was gone. Though the food was good, it felt different. Amara didn't mind so much, because she was happy to be with her mother, and they were living a simple, honest life. No more secrets, no more magic, just love, hard work, and the warmth of their kitchen filled with laughter and joy. One morning, the village elders came to visit Amara and Mama Ngozi. The elders were older people who knew many stories and secrets of the village. They looked at Mama Ngozi with worried faces. "We heard about the pact you broke," one elder said softly. "Breaking such a promise to the spirits is serious." The elders sat in silence for a moment. "There may be consequences," another elder added. Amara felt nervous. She had no idea what kind of trouble they might be in. The elders gave Mama Ngozi a warning and left, leaving them with many questions. The elders gathered in the village square, speaking in low voices. "Breaking the pact with the spirits is not something to take lightly," one elder said. "The spirits do not forgive easily." Mama Ngozi's face grew pale. "What will happen to us?" she asked. "There may be strange things happening now," the elder warned. "The magic might come back, but it won't be the same. It will be stronger and harder to control." Amara's heart raced. The elder's words made her feel scared, but she knew they had no choice but to face whatever was coming next. That night, Amara went to bed, but she couldn't sleep. As soon as she closed her eyes, she had a strange dream. She was standing in a dark forest. A shadowy figure stood in front of her, calling her name softly. "Amara, Amara," it whispered. The voice was familiar, but Amara couldn't see the face. She felt both scared and curious. The figure reached out a hand, but just as Amara was about to take it, she woke up with a start. Her heart was pounding, and she felt like something important was about to happen. The next day, Amara decided to go for a walk in the village. As she passed the edge of the forest, she saw a strange figure standing between the trees. The figure was tall, wearing a cloak that covered most of its body. Amara couldn't see the face, but she felt a cold chill run down her spine. The figure turned towards her and whispered, "You cannot hide from what has been broken." Before Amara could ask who it was, the figure disappeared into the forest. Amara stood frozen, wondering what the figure meant and who it really was. The figure in the forest seemed so strange and mysterious. Amara couldn't stop thinking about what it had said. "You cannot hide from what has been broken." What did it mean? Amara felt a strange feeling inside her, like something was watching her. Later that day, she told Mama Ngozi about the figure, but her mother looked worried. "That sounds like a spirit," Mama said. "Spirits are tricky. They don't like when promises are broken." Amara shivered, thinking about the dark figure. She realized that whatever had happened with the pact was not over. It was only just beginning. That evening, Amara and Mama Ngozi were cooking together, but something felt different. The food they were preparing started to smell much better than usual. It had a soft, glowing light around it, just like before when the magic was strong. Amara looked at her mother, and they both knew something was wrong. The magic had returned, but it felt darker, like it wasn't the same kind of magic they used to have. "This isn't good," Mama Ngozi whispered. "We must have disturbed something." Amara felt nervous. What would happen now that the magic was back, but changed? The next morning, Amara found something strange at the doorstep. It was a small stone, glowing softly with a light that made it look magical. The stone was smooth and cool to the touch. When Amara held it in her hand, she felt a strange energy run through her. It was like the stone was alive. Where did this come from? Amara wondered, looking around. Mama Ngozi came over and gasped when she saw the stone. "This is no ordinary stone," she said. "It must be connected to the magic that's returned." They both felt uneasy about what it meant. That evening, as Amara held the glowing stone, a soft light filled the room. Suddenly, the guardian spirit appeared before them. It glowed brightly, like a shining star. "The magic has returned," the spirit said in a calm voice. "But it is not the same. It is more powerful and dangerous." Amara and Mama Ngozi listened carefully. "You must be careful," the spirit warned. "The shadow from before is coming back, and it will not forgive what was broken." Amara felt scared but also determined. She knew they had to find a way to stop the dark magic before it took control. The guardian spirit looked at Amara and Mama Ngozi with serious eyes. "The shadow that you saw before will return," it said. "It is angry that the pact was broken, and it will try to take back the magic." Amara shivered. "What will happen if it comes back?" she asked. The spirit paused before answering. "The shadow wants to control the magic, and it will stop at nothing to get it. If it succeeds, the village will suffer." Mama Ngozi held Amara's hand tightly. "We have to stop it," Mama said. "We can't let the shadow take control again." Mama Ngozi looked at Amara with worry in her eyes. "I never wanted this to happen," she said softly. "I thought breaking the pact would make things better, but now the magic is back, and it's worse." Amara felt sad seeing her mother so upset. "We didn't know it would turn out this way," Amara said. Mama Ngozi took a deep breath. "I made a mistake," she admitted, "but I will fix it, no matter what it takes." Amara nodded, feeling strong. "We will fix it together, Mama," she said. They both knew that the journey ahead would be tough. Amara and Mama Ngozi knew they had to find answers to stop the magic from growing stronger. "We need help," Mama said. "The wise woman in the village knows many secrets. She might have the answers we need." Early the next morning, they set off to visit the wise woman. The road to her house was long and filled with twists, but Amara and Mama Ngozi were determined. When they arrived, the wise woman greeted them kindly. "I've been waiting for you," she said. "I know what has happened. The magic must be stopped, but it will not be easy." Amara and Mama Ngozi decided they needed help, so they set off to find the village's oldest wise woman. She was known for knowing many secrets about magic and spirits. The journey was long, but they didn't mind because they knew it was important. When they reached her hut by the river, the wise woman welcomed them in. "I know why you're here," she said with a kind smile. Amara and Mama Ngozi explained everything. about the pact, the magic, and the shadow. The wise woman listened carefully, then told them there was a way to fix the magic, but it wouldn't be easy. The wise woman explained that the magic was very old, much older than the forest itself. This magic is tied to the spirits of the land and the balance of nature, she said. When you broke the pact, you disturbed that balance. Amara and Mama Ngozi listened carefully. The magic you've awakened is powerful, but it comes with a heavy price, the wise woman continued. You cannot control it without the right knowledge. If you want to stop it, you must go to the heart of the forest, where the first magic was born. Amara's heart raced. It sounded dangerous, but they had no choice. The wise woman handed Amara and Mama Ngozi a small old map. This will guide you to the heart of the forest, she explained. But be warned, the journey will be dangerous. Amara looked at the map, feeling both scared and brave. If we don't go, the magic will grow stronger, and the shadow will return, she said. Mama Ngozi nodded. We have no choice. We must go. The wise woman looked at them one last time. Remember, you must trust each other and your love for one another. That is the only way to restore balance. Amara and Mama Ngozi nodded. Amara and Mama Ngozi began their journey to the heart of the forest. The path was dark and full of thick trees. Every step seemed to take them deeper into the unknown. Strange sounds filled the air, whispers from the wind, the rustling of leaves, and the distant cries of animals. Stay close, Amara, Mama Ngozi said softly. Amara held her mother's hand tightly, feeling both scared and excited. They knew they had to keep going, no matter how dangerous it seemed. The heart of the forest was their only hope to stop the dark magic and the shadow. After walking for hours, Amara and Mama Ngozi reached a clearing. In front of them was a glowing stone circle, the heart of the forest. The air felt thick with magic, and the trees around them seemed to hum with energy. Amara could feel the power in the air, but it was also strange and a little scary. This is it, Mama Ngozi whispered. We have to restore the balance here. As they stepped closer to the circle, they felt the ground tremble beneath their feet. It was clear that something big was about to happen, and they were ready. As Amara and Mama Ngozi stood in the glowing stone circle, the forest around them began to change. The trees whispered their names, and the wind carried strange voices. Don't listen to them, Mama Ngozi warned. The forest is full of tricks. But Amara couldn't help feeling like the trees were talking to her, calling her. The path seemed to twist and turn, as if the forest itself was alive. Amara felt confused and unsure of which way to go. We have to stay focused, Mama Ngozi said, holding Amara's hand tightly. We can't let the forest fool us. The night grew colder, and the forest seemed alive with strange sounds. Amara and Mama Ngozi made camp near a small fire. The shadows danced around them, and the wind whispered like it was telling secrets. Amara kept hearing footsteps behind them, but every time she looked, no one was there. We must be getting close, Amara whispered. I feel it too, Mama Ngozi said, looking around. The fire crackled, and the darkness seemed to grow deeper. Stay close to me, Mama added. They both knew the journey ahead would be full of challenges, but they had no choice but to keep going. At the center of the forest, Amara and Mama Ngozi found a large stone circle, glowing brightly. As they stepped inside, the ground shook, and a dark shadow appeared before them. It was the same shadow they had seen before, but now it looked even more powerful and angry. You think you can undo what I've done? The shadow hissed. You cannot stop me." Amara and Mama Ngozi stood strong, holding hands. "We have no choice but to try," Amara said. The shadow laughed, its voice echoing through the trees. The final test had begun, and they had to face it together. The peace Amara and Mama Ngozi had found was shattered one night when the shadow returned. It was no longer the quiet, haunting figure it once was. Now it was a dark, swirling mass, full of anger and power. Amara could feel its cold presence as it loomed over them. The village had been peaceful, but now, the magic that had been broken had reawakened the shadow. It was determined to reclaim the power it once had, and it was stronger than before. Amara and Mama Ngozi knew they had no choice but to face it head-on. Amara and Mama Ngozi stood hand in hand, staring into the darkness that the shadow had brought. The air was thick with fear, but they knew they couldn't turn back. Mama Ngozi squeezed her daughter's hand, trying to comfort her, though her own heart raced. "We have faced much, Amara," Mama said softly. "But this will test us like never before." Amara nodded, her small face determined despite the fear. She wasn't sure how they would defeat the shadow, but she knew they couldn't let it win. Together, they took the first step toward the unknown. The magic that had once filled their lives with wonder had returned, but it was different now. It was darker, colder, and filled with an energy that made Amara's skin prickle. The warmth that once radiated from the kitchen and the village was gone, replaced by a chilling feeling of uncertainty. Mama Ngozi's eyes reflected the same fear that Amara felt. The magic had changed, and not for the better. It no longer brought comfort or joy. Instead, it felt like an uncontrollable force that could destroy everything they loved. Amara realized that stopping this magic wouldn't be easy. The guardian spirit appeared before Amara and Mama Ngozi, its bright light casting a soft glow in the dark room. "The magic has returned," the spirit said, its voice calm but filled with urgency. "But it is no longer the same. It is stronger, darker, and harder to control." Amara listened closely, feeling a deep sense of fear. "The shadow that you saw before," the spirit continued, "is angry that the pact was broken. It will come for the magic and will not stop until it gets what it wants." The spirit's warning hung heavy in the air, filling them both with dread. Amara and Mama Ngozi knew that to stop the shadow and the dark magic, they had to journey deep into the heart of the forest. The wise woman had given them a map, but the path was dangerous and filled with unknowns. "We must go no matter the dangers," Mama Ngozi said, determination in her voice. Amara nodded, clutching her mother's hand tightly. The forest was vast and mysterious, but the heart held the answers they needed. As they began their journey, the air around them grew still, as if the forest itself was watching them, waiting for their next move. The wise woman greeted Amara and Mama Ngozi with a knowing smile. "I've been waiting for you," she said, her voice calm and warm. They explained everything: the broken pact, the returned magic, and the shadow's threat. The wise woman listened carefully, nodding slowly. "The magic is older than you know," she said, her eyes filled with wisdom. "When you broke the pact, you disturbed the balance of nature. To restore it, you must go to the heart of the forest where the first magic was born. But beware, the journey is dangerous and time is running out." The road to the heart of the forest was long and treacherous. Amara and Mama Ngozi walked through dense trees where the sunlight barely reached the ground. Strange sounds echoed in the distance. and the path seemed to shift with every step. "Stay close," Mama Ngozi whispered, her eyes scanning the shadows. Amara felt the weight of the journey on her small shoulders, but refused to let fear take control. Every rustle in the bush and every distant howl made her heart race. The forest was alive with secrets, and they had to be brave to uncover them. As Amara and Mama Ngozi ventured deeper into the forest, something strange began to happen. The trees seemed to whisper as the wind swirled around them, carrying voices they couldn't quite understand. Amara's heart beat faster as she felt like the forest was watching them. The leaves rustled, as if the trees themselves were alive, guiding their every step. "It feels like the forest is trying to speak to us," Amara said softly. Mama Ngozi nodded, her face serious. "The forest holds many secrets," she whispered. "We must stay focused. We can't let the forest trick us." After hours of walking, Amara and Mama Ngozi stumbled upon a clearing in the heart of the forest. In front of them stood a glowing stone circle, its light pulsating softly in the dark. The air felt thick with magic, and the trees surrounding the circle seemed to hum with energy. Amara's eyes widened in awe and fear. "This is it, Mama," she whispered. "The heart of the forest." Mama Ngozi nodded, her face filled with both wonder and worry. The circle was beautiful, but they both knew that this place held the key to stopping the shadow and the magic. As Amara and Mama Ngozi stepped into the glowing stone circle, the forest seemed to close in around them. The air grew heavy, filled with whispers that seemed to come from every direction. Amara's heart raced and she felt a sense of dread wash over her. "Stay close," Mama Ngozi said, her voice firm despite the fear in her eyes. "We must stay focused. The forest will try to lead us astray." Amara nodded, gripping her mother's hand tightly. Together they moved deeper into the circle, knowing that their courage and love for each other were their only guides. Suddenly the ground trembled beneath their feet, and the air grew cold. A dark, swirling shape appeared in the center of the stone circle. The shadow had returned. It loomed over Amara and Mama Ngozi, its form shifting like smoke. "You cannot undo what I've done," it hissed, its voice echoing with anger. The shadow's eyes glowed a fiery red as it towered above them. Amara and Mama Ngozi stood their ground, despite the terror creeping into their hearts. The shadow was stronger than before, but they knew they had no choice but to face it. Their journey had led to this moment. The shadow lunged toward them, its dark energy crackling in the air. Amara and Mama Ngozi jumped back, narrowly avoiding its grasp. The magic within the stone circle seemed to fight back, glowing brighter with every move the shadow made. Mama Ngozi held her ground, raising her hand toward the shadow. "We won't let you take the magic," she shouted. Amara, feeling a surge of courage, stepped forward. "We will stop you." Together they focused on the light from the stones, using their love and willpower to push against the dark force. The battle had only just begun. As the battle intensified, the magic within the stone circle seemed to awaken, reacting to the struggle. The air crackled with energy, and a glowing light surrounded Amara and Mama Ngozi. The stones pulsed rhythmically, almost as if they were alive, sending waves of power toward the shadow. But the shadow wasn't easily defeated. It twisted and swirled, using dark magic to fight back. Amara felt a strange pull, as if the magic inside her was trying to connect with the stones. "We must trust it," Mama Ngozi urged. Together they focused their energy, hoping the magic would help them win. The shadow's form grew even darker, its anger palpable, as it roared with fury. "You think you can stop me?" it bellowed, its voice sending shivers through the air. The very earth beneath their feet seemed to tremble. It was stronger than ever before, filled with rage over the broken pact. Amara and Mama Ngozi could feel its power pressing down on them, but they refused to back down. "We have to end this," Amara whispered, her voice filled with determination. The shadow's laughter echoed, mocking their efforts, but Amara knew they couldn't give up now. The fate of everything rested on them. Just as the shadow seemed ready to overwhelm them, a soft, warm light flickered within the stone circle. Amara's heart skipped a beat. For a brief moment, the shadow paused, as if confused by the light. The stones pulsed stronger than ever, sending waves of calm through the air. Amara felt something shift inside her, an inner strength, a connection to the magic that had once been so powerful. She realized that the magic wasn't just a force, it was a part of her too. "We can do this," she said, her voice steady. A new hope ignited within them both. Amara stepped closer to the glowing stone in the center of the circle. The magic around them felt alive, humming with energy. She could feel its power, ancient and strong, flowing through the stones and into her. Mama Ngozi stood beside her, her eyes filled with hope and fear. Together they had reached the heart of the forest, the source of the magic. Amara placed the glowing stone she had carried carefully into the center. The ground rumbled softly, and for a moment, everything stood still. This was the moment they had been waiting for, their final chance to restore balance. As the glowing stone settled into the center, the air around them began to shift. A soft, shimmering light surrounded the circle, and the ground beneath their feet hummed with ancient energy. Suddenly, the spirits of the forest awoke, their forms appearing as soft glowing figures in the mist. They circled around Amara and Mama Ngozi, their presence both calming and powerful. "You have done well," one spirit said, its voice like the rustling of leaves. The trees seemed to bow, acknowledging their bravery. Amara and Mama Ngozi felt a deep sense of peace, knowing the magic was awakening in harmony. The ground beneath them trembled as the shadow reappeared, its form swirling with dark energy. "You cannot stop me," it hissed, its voice full of fury. The spirits circled, their light growing brighter, but the shadow's darkness fought against it, trying to overwhelm the light. Amara and Mama Ngozi stood firm, hand in hand. "We have no choice but to face you," Amara said, her voice filled with determination. "We will protect this magic, and we will protect our village." With all their strength, they focused on the light from the stone circle, ready for the final battle against the shadow. Amara and Mama Ngozi focused their energy, their love, and their hope, pouring everything they had into the glowing stone. The spirits of the forest surrounded them, lending their power to the light. The shadow fought back, growing larger and more menacing, but the light grew brighter with each moment. The darkness began to fade, slowly shrinking away, until it was nothing more than a whisper in the wind. The magic, once again balanced, filled the forest with peace. Amara and Mama Ngozi stood in silence, knowing they had done it. The shadow was gone, and the forest was restored. With the shadow vanquished and the balance restored, the forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The trees stood taller, and the air was filled with a calm warmth. Amara and Mama Ngozi, exhausted but triumphant, made their way back home. The village greeted them with open arms, the once dying magic now glowing softly in the air. We've done it, Mama, Amara whispered, smiling at her mother. Mama Ngozi nodded, her heart full of pride. We did it together. As the sun set, they knew that this peaceful new beginning would last, their bond stronger than ever.